Welcome back to another episode of My Voice is Weapon podcast. I'm your director, your producer, and host. I'm Rod Grom. Well, first of all, let me just apologize. Yesterday, I promised to bring a new episode up, but I caught up by some stuff. Basically, I got caught up by getting my new iPad, and I know I don't sound very enthusiastic, but there's a reason for this. So check it out. This is what happened. Yesterday, I got a new iPad, which, as you all probably already know, cost some good chunk of money, a good amount that I spent. And as high as my expectations were and the excitement I had, I found myself trying to make all the features work when I finally found out that the one feature that I was expecting to have working perfectly wasn't even there. It didn't have that feature. Now, everything else worked perfectly. I even managed to I actually got the SIM card from my phone to the device, to the iPad, and it worked perfectly, except for the fact that it didn't work as a cell phone, so I couldn't get to call anybody or receive any phone calls. So it was tremendously frustrating because it made me spend the whole day trying to find a way to make that feature work until late last night when I finally realized that that feature wasn't even there to begin with. So I purposely bought an iPad with Wi-Fi and cellular features on it, and it wound up being a huge waste of time. So now I decided that I'm returning the iPad, and what gave me the biggest headache today was the fact that I realized that while I bought that iPad, that yes, it was something that it was necessary, but there was no urgency in buying it. I should have bought a new phone instead because my cell phone is on its last legs. That's why I wanted the cell phone feature to work on the iPad so bad. I mean, everything else did work. I got Wi-Fi hooked up on my laptop and a couple of other devices. But the one feature that I really needed to work just didn't. So it was incredibly frustrating because when I realized that I wanted to come up with a new podcast episode, it was already like super late at night, and I said, well, everybody's asleep here, so I can't start recording, I can't do anything. So yeah, a bummer, real bummer. Oh, something else I just forgot to mention at the very beginning. As you can see, I'm not using an intro song anymore for the start of the show. And there's also a very good reason for that. I realized checking on the last couple of episodes that although the content was very interesting, the quality of the sound and the audio in general was completely hindered. And I tried to fix it, and I realized the only way to make it better was to get rid of the intro song altogether. So no intro, and I think I'm gonna keep it this way for a while until I can figure out a way to make it work so that the quality of the podcast is not hindered by one little thing like an intro song. So for future episodes, you won't hear any music on the background. You won't have intros or anything until I find out if there's a way to improve it and make it work. And also, I wanted to change that song anyway. That song, I didn't like the song, the intro song that I had. Man, this copyright thing about the music stuff for podcasts is really a bitch. Jesus, it's complicated. We can't use anything. It's very limited. I've been trying to come up with a song that would make sense and that I would like for the introduction and for the outro as well. But holy shit. No chance for that. So yeah. Anyway, what else? Okay, so on the last episode, I was very angry at the music business. I did kind of a very rough rant against the state of the music industry today. So I decided to change a little bit. I think I've been complaining and bitching too much. Perhaps I can actually speak positively about the music industry some way. I can try to find a way to get some compliments to the industry, although it's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy, especially for someone like me who has a very, very much heavy critical sense. But there is some positive stuff, and I can say that one of the most positive things is we can actually really rely on nostalgia for the music, because thanks to the internet we have all types of choices, and we can listen to anything we want from any era, basically. So that's actually a good thing. It's actually a very good thing, because it means that new music is gonna stay on forever as well, and the future generations will have a way to find stuff from the past easily, and man, internet changed a lot, eh? Just when I think of the way things used to be, when I was a kid, the internet just wasn't there, it started to appear when I was a teenager, but when I was a kid, it's just Not a lot of people had access to the internet. Very, very limited people. And the few people that had access were either those super geniuses that knew everything about IT stuff. We used to call them nerds back then. I think we still call them that. Or military people that had access to that type of stuff every day. Anyway, I digress. Back to the music business. The other positive that I find, and maybe this is more of a recent compliment, although I complained a lot about the lack of talent and the overproduced stuff that we've got on the music industry today. But I think that maybe one of the things that is very, very good is actually the quality of the sound in general. You know, when you listen, we're in the digitalized era of basically everything, right? The industry is digitalizing mostly every department, so not just music, but all industries as a whole. I feel like we had the Industrial Revolution, and now we're at plain sight of the technological revolution, and it's insane. It's insane how technology grew so fast in such a short period of time, because in less than 10 years, the improvements we had with the way we use internet. Remember, to get to internet, it took a while, right? All those wires, and while you were accessing the internet, you weren't able to use the phone. You couldn't call anybody, and if anybody called you, it would cut your internet access immediately while the phone was ringing. So very, very different nowadays with the Wi-Fi technology. There's a theory that technology came from aliens, but we'll discuss that later. Yeah, I was talking about the quality of the sound and the audio quality altogether is just so much better than it used to be. And maybe that helps the overproducing, because nowadays it sounds so good that what is the only way you can improve the sound? Overproducing it. It's clear. So maybe in that way I was a little bit too hard when I said that those people are lazy. It's not that they're lazy, it's just that they take care of the wrong stuff. Maybe that's a better way to put it, right? Because on the last episode I was kind of angry, and maybe I said stuff the wrong way. So yeah, I think there's a big part of that, that when you achieve a certain level of perfection, it's kind of hard to improve on it. So you do everything in a way that it makes it overproduced. It feels the same way with most things in that field. If you think about movies and TV shows and, most stuff like that. Video games. I mean, think about video games, how super overproduced they look. Of course, some of them obviously look insanely awesome. I wish we had those kinds of graphics when I was a kid, because although I do like to play some video games here and there, I'm not a gamer. Not as much as I used to be when I was younger, or especially as a kid. As a kid, I used to play a bunch of stuff. As time went on, I just stopped and played one game there, not a game here. But yeah, I guess I lost interest as well, even though the whole the whole idea of video games improved vastly. I guess I just grew up and lost interest, but I recognize the quality, right, in the video games today. It has its. And today it's like, it's not just for kids anymore. You have those professional gamers making a lot of money, right? It's almost like when the internet became the internet that we have today, two things happened. Gaming became a thing, and professional poker became something else as well. Because professional poker always existed. It was just underlodged. Not a lot of people knew about it, and you couldn't get access to that type of thing just because, that some sort of censorship. Not censorship, but I understand that's the type of stuff you don't want your kids around. It's kind of dangerous if they get into gambling too much. And so, yeah, I get it. And yeah, now you can see plenty of ads on the internet about poker. You can see, you can actually name some of the most prolific poker players. Yater Gazman, right? That Bulgarian? Is he Bulgarian? I don't remember, but I think so. Yeah, it's a Bulgarian guy. Actually, the best professional poker player today is a woman. It's a chick. She's in her late 20s, I believe, maybe early 30s, and apparently she's insane. She's very, very good. I can't remember her name, but very interesting. There's a female poker player that is making everybody else wet their pants when she's around. So, yeah, who knew? So, coming back to what I was saying about music, what else can I say positively about the industry? I don't know if there's so much that I can suck up to. But hey, those are the few things that at least I found. A couple of things. At first I thought, wow, this is gonna be impossible to say anything nice about this industry the way it is now. But hey, I kind of pull it off. what else can we talk about in a positive note? Certainly, it's not easy. Well, I think one of the good things is when I first started the podcast, I thought that it was gonna take way too long to even have 5 people downloading or listening in. And I realize now that I've got almost 40 to 50 people already listening. So I guess I just need to keep going and keep working on this little project. But let me tell you one thing that I found extremely hard is to actually prepare content for every day. Sometimes that's the hard part, especially when I was explaining what happened yesterday. The other reason I didn't upload is because the little times that I thought about starting to record and bring up new stuff, I just had nothing. I had absolutely nothing. I was blank. So either I was too distracted by the iPad situation, or maybe I was just somewhere else. I couldn't find it in me to start recording something. And I hate to come up here and have no content to talk about. So that's the hard part, because when you plan a podcast the way that I did, I expected to be recording and uploading episodes with close to 2 hours. And so far, it's been hard to even get to 45 minutes, you know. Right now, I've been here for 22 minutes, and I feel like I talked about nothing really interesting. Nonetheless, this might be the best sound quality podcast so far. This episode, if I thought the last episode had the best content, maybe this one, not necessarily the best content, but definitely the best audio quality. So, what else? I was gonna say something else and it just draw a blank again. I hate when that happens. Too much stuff and nothing at the same time. Condense it. So, yeah. Yeah, the last episode, I thought really that I was gonna get at least everybody that already download the first 2, 3, 4 episodes. I thought the last one was gonna get the biggest number of downloads, but apparently, even though the content of the podcast was good, apparently the sound was terrible. So maybe people disagree with me and think that the third episode was better than the last one. So yeah, because I looked at the stats and I see that the vast majority downloaded and watched the third episode. But hey, after when I ended the last episode, I looked at the stats. I've been reviewing some stuff, and I decided to make a thank you note. And that's something that I'm gonna do gradually, every once in a while. I'll add a thank you note, every time I see the growth and the more popular the podcast becomes, shut up Siri, sorry, the more popular the podcast becomes, then the more thank you notes I will have to do, because I believe in interacting with the audience, at least in a direct way, in an indirect way, sorry. And because while I cannot hear you or listen to you, I can actually read your comments, so feel free to leave comments on the websites, on the platforms. I know Spotify doesn't have a comment section, but I do have I think actually I never mentioned this. I have a YouTube channel, and the problem is that the YouTube channel does not have the name of the podcast. Maybe I should change that, and I should put the name of the podcast as the name of the channel directly. So, sorry, there's some people working outside here, so there's some noise in the background. This microphone picks up anything. It's incredible. Even if I try to take it out, it picks up the noises from everywhere. It's insane. But I just lost track of what I was saying, and well, yeah. I need to do some more investigation. I stopped investigating a couple of episodes ago because I couldn't find the content that I need to cover, and it's not easy to find content that the mainstream media doesn't cover, in terms of news and events. It's not easy because the stuff is out there, but it's very underground, buried under the sand and gravel and whatever. So, yeah, I've been trying to find stuff to talk about. I've been watching some other videos from that YouTube channel that I mentioned once or twice here on a podcast, because I find their material quite fascinating. Channel Barely Sociable on YouTube. Shout out to them again. Absolutely fantastic work. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I wish if I find a way to get them to reply to some of my comments, that would be great, because I'm willing to work together if they can help me out with some of the info that I need about this news and events. But yeah, there it is, Barely Sociable. Of course, this isn't, they're not a sponsor, they're just people that I follow because I do find what they do fascinating. Brilliant work. I mean, the way they tell those stories and they investigate, and it's just a very, very well done job. Excellent. What I haven't been doing so much lately, and I should have, is listen to some other podcasts to kind of get the vibe of how to improve my own podcast. And I had a period where I was listening to a bunch of them, not just the most popular ones, but I was listening to Joe Rogan. I listened to a bunch of comedy stuff, like the Bill Burr podcast, which is Bert Kreischer and Bill Burr, two comedians. Holy shit, those guys are funny. I wish I had that talent. I don't know if I'm that funny. Maybe I can be funny, but I don't know if I can come up with a joke like that naturally. The way, wow, Bill Burr, holy shit. The guy's crafty, okay? What a talent. Shit. But yeah, those guys and Kreischer is funny in a very unintentional and natural way. It's almost bizarre, right? It's crazy. The guy's funny just but the way he moves. It's not the way he does some gesture or some face. It's the way he moves. It's funny. You watch him. But I guess he does do it intentionally. It's just that maybe it's so natural. It became just a feature from his act. You know, the guy is so talented. Bert Kreischer is one of those guys that can be funny at absolutely any time of the day. He just has that type of, at least, I mean, obviously I don't know him personally, but from watching and listening to him, I think he's one of those people that has the ability to be funny at any, even if he doesn't feel like being funny, he's funny, right? Which is fascinating to me, because I could never be that way. At least not like him, you know. So it's quite interesting. And so we just got through the first half hour of the show. And this is where I start to feel like, see, this is the problem. No content. The podcast becomes boring, and the attention drifts somewhere else. So I think I'm gonna cut it out here, come back tomorrow with something more substantial, more dynamic again, and I guess that's it. This is probably the shortest episode so far, unless I can get something out of my hat and make it a subject to talk about. God, I hate my family. No, they're working, but this microphone picks everything up. It's insane. All right. Okay, here's something. This might not be very interesting, but I think I found a way to stop knocking the microphone off every time, because I realized that can be very irritating if you're listening, especially, right? Because although those knocks are not, it's not like I'm punching the microphone, but it sounds like something like I'm trying to break something, the equipment. It's not, it's just a little knock. Look, this is just an example. Don't get angry with me. See? That was just a little touch. And it sounds like I'm punching something, right? It's not, it's just it sounds like something terrible is happening. Well, it's just a little knock on the microphone or on the table. Even the keyboard. If I press a little button on the keyboard, see? It sounds like a fucking hit. It sounds like a bullet. A shot. Anyway. Yeah. So, I guess the content today was more about finally improving the overall quality of the show, not just for the content, but also for the sound, the system as a whole. I need to finally find out a way to get rid of the external noise, so all you can hear is just my voice through this microphone and everything else is buried, right? Yeah. And so, here's something before I decide to cut it off completely. So far, I haven't done any publicity or I haven't had any ads on the show. And the reason why is because I am very careful. I'm being extremely careful with the way I can find the appropriate sponsor for the show, right? Because it's not just about landing any sponsors just because it's some money. No, it has. I found out that it's better if you studied everything and trying to find the sponsor that will take care of the things that you need taken care of, and in turn you give them a few minutes of your time on the podcast, right? There also, it's not for nothing. It's some time filler, right? Whenever if there's no content, I can just put the sponsorship in there, and it helps fill in the blanks for the show, so it isn't so boring. I really hope you take this as a joke. I really hope that I'm not as boring as I think I am, or I've been. Maybe I'm too hard on myself sometimes, but I just, I believe in perfection. And the way I believe in perfection is this. Perfection is unobtainable. It's unreachable. But the way to get to perfection is you can always improve what you're doing. So every time you improve, you're closer to perfection. When you put a high standard for your work or for whatever you do, you get to a point where you realize that although you reached that goal, the end product can be even better. So you start thinking how to improve on it and how to improve, and you always find ways until it gets really like the line gets thinner and thinner, and the space to improve becomes smaller and smaller, until maybe one day you decide that is perfect. There is no other way to improve it. And then down the line in the future, you look back at it and you think it's terrible, because that's what happens all the time. Time goes on, you think something is perfect, and then you look back after a couple of years or a decade or however long you need to wait, and you realize how bad it was. Because after you start doing something you start doing something every day, and you get to the process of learning and improving, and you see that the improvement spend is huge, is large. But once you start doing it every day, you finish, for example, the first year, and the second year comes in, that line becomes thinner. There is not much room for improvement anymore. So you get a little bit stale. Things start to get on a different level. You're more professional about the stuff that you're doing because you know more about it, right? You're more proficient in what you're doing. Therefore, you already know what you're doing. So it's kind of hard to find a way to improve something when you feel comfortable with it because you know exactly what to do. And when that happens is the staleness. And that's the hard part because sometimes you realize, this is getting boring. I don't feel like doing it anymore because it's the same shit every day. But that's with everything. It doesn't matter what you do. At some point, the excitement just runs off. I feel like I'm talking about marriage. Yeah, you can kind of relate. Marriages get to that stale point of a relationship. There's no more passion anymore. So maybe I've got something in there. Well, we just got to the line of the average time portion where the show ends. We reach almost 42 minutes. I'll try to keep going. I guess this is one of those episodes that you couldn't say that it's my voice is a weapon because I didn't rant over anything. I feel like the whole purpose of the show is exactly to be mean against some people or most people, really. But no, I think sometimes the podcast will have a different angle, which is a good thing. It helps to make it a little bit different, you know. But for tomorrow, I will have some material prepared. Don't you worry. I will come up with something. In fact, there's a couple of things that I've been watching. Oh, here it is. I almost forgot. Back to the music stuff that I was talking about when I touched on the nostalgia. I was watching a video on YouTube, and it was this concert on the biggest metal festival in the world, which is called the fucking Open Air Metal Festival in Germany. And as I mentioned a couple of times before, I have a number of bands that I like very, very much, and they're on the top of my list, my favorites. But this, back to the thrash metal genre, they're not my favorite by any means, but they might have two of my favorite metal songs altogether. And this is what I think is one of the most underrated bands in the whole genre of metal. Their name is Destruction, German band, and they are just old school thrash metal, you know. But they're, I mean, old school. They feel like the first version of Venom or Anvil. That's how old school, or even Diamond Head. That's how old school these guys are. That's crazy that they can be so creative too. And they came in the 80s, mid 80s, 85, 86. But man, what a band. And one of the good things about Destruction is that they've been consistent with the same formation for a very long time now. They've been a trio for maybe over 20 years. And that's very rare in the music, especially in this type of genre nowadays. It's hard to get a band that survives this long together with the same formation. I don't know if it is the original. Maybe it's what you would call original formation after a while. I mean, Iron Maiden, of course, you could argue that Bruce Dickinson is not part of the original formation, but how long has Bruce been in Iron Maiden for? How can you not consider him an original, right? I mean, after all, the whole evolution of the band happened mostly with him on the band. So that argument about original formation being the first, I don't know if I agree with that. I think that the original formation is the one that sticks together for the longest and has that feel of that's the band, right? Iron Maiden doesn't sound like Iron Maiden if Bruce Dickinson is not screaming in that microphone. And you could argue same thing with other bands. For example, Dream Theater, Mike Portnoy left the band and doesn't feel the same. After all, he was one of the founders and a very important part of, not just writing, but producing everything. The guy, and whatever happened, that he decided to leave the band in the circumstances that he did. But now he's back with Liquid Tension. What was the name of that? Liquid Tension Experiment, which is basically Dream Theater without James LeBrie and John Myung, the bassist. But it's the same band, right? Everybody else is there, and he came back to work with him after over 8 years that he left the band. He left Dream Theater, and when he left Dream Theater, of course, by extension, he left this project of Liquid Tension Experiment. He was gone. So now, I don't know if this means that at some point he's gonna come back to Dream Theater, because it looks like the other drummer they have now, I'm sorry, I know his name is Mike as well. I don't remember his surname. I'm sorry. But the other drummer, the drummer that is on Dream Theater now, they don't seem to have a problem with him. They get along fine, right? They don't have any disputes, so it doesn't look like he's leaving the band anytime soon. Or maybe I'm mistaken. I don't know. It's just an impression that I have. Who knows? But hey, it's... Wow, we made it to 50 minutes. I found a way to put up some more content. But that's the thing. I don't want all the content to be the same every episode. I feel like I've been talking about music for too long. The content needs to be different every episode. It's what I said about not being stale, and I feel like I'm getting stale too fast here. But maybe it's because I didn't have the time to get some material ready for today. But that's a little bit of the... Sorry, I just got a... Okay. Now I got a text message on the phone. Thought it was important, but no, it's not that important. So, yeah. And, talking about being stale and all of this, one of the things that I find that is tedious today to watch, it's so boring, is exactly the news. God almighty. It's god awful. It's the same thing over and over, right? The only thing that changes is they put some new name, right? All of a sudden you've got some new face in politics that screwed something up, and now they're throwing stones at him or her. It's just insane. But it's basically the same thing over and over. And the reason why I try to bring up the news that the media doesn't cover is exactly because I think there is more good stuff out there to bring, It's fucking depressing watching that shit, man. Shit. It gets me a headache every time. And let's be clear, this is not just the news in English. I'm talking about all over the place. I listen to news from Brazil in Portuguese. I listen to news in French. I listen to news in Spanish. It's the same thing. Even when last year I was living in the Netherlands, and I don't even understand Dutch. But even those news, I knew it was bad. Right? I know. Do you know how I know? I don't need to understand what they're saying, but I immediately know it's bad. Do you know why? The tone of their voice, that's first. And then, whatever comes next, any image of shocking stuff going on, for example, some trash container on fire, or somebody bleeding in the middle of the street, that's not good. So, it immediately gets to you that it's bad stuff, right? Immediately. Right there and there. And it's just, God, I wish they brought more news about what Elon Musk does, which is always good, right? Anything that Elon Musk comes up with is good news. Some way or the other. There's always someone that will look at it and find some way to critique it or to put it down. But the guy is such a genius that he's like miles away. Right? While we're still thinking about how to get things working here, he's already thinking about how to make things work in Mars. The only criticism that I can have with that is, hold on, Elon. If we are so elapsed in ruining things here on Earth and not make it work and not fix this, don't you think that if we go to Mars, we're going to fuck up things all over again? That's the only criticism that I can have with him. But I guess he has everything planned out. Obviously, he's not going to take everybody to Mars. He's going to do his experiments, see what works. And whoever screws things up or do bad stuff, a kick in the gully and back to Earth you go. Yeah, treat Earth like if Mars was heaven and Earth was hell. That's exactly what we should do. Exactly. That's how it should be. And I'm not a very religious person, but holy shit, you put that installment of mine in everybody, and I promise you, anyone who goes to Mars will think 1,000 times before they do any stupidity. Well, with that, let's close 56, almost 57 minutes. Guys, yeah, I think we're done here for the day. It's almost dinner time here. So once again, thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow with content. I promise you. Have a nice one and see you next time.